My name's Nicole Duet, and I am originally from New Orleans, but I have lived in California for a while. I got both of my degrees out in Los Angeles. I have a bachelor's degree in theater and a master's degree in drawing and painting. So right now, I guess I would call myself an observational painter who works in multiple mediums. My current work, I guess my training is in oil painting, traditional oil painting. Like in the techniques of the old masters, you look at something and you want to be able to reproduce the illusion of that thing, along with dealing with other things, like beauty and light and drama and that kind of thing. It's changed a lot since then. So I'm currently working on a body of watercolors that are entirely done from imagination. So it's a whole new kind of I'm a little bit of a medium gypsy, So it's kind of like the opposite spectrum these days. I think my early training in theater, it made me someone who kind of goes through life with a little bit of an observer's eye that's switched on all the time. And usually that means just kind of looking at human interaction. So moments between people will catch my eye or bring up questions. I'm looking out my porch window right now, and there's this light that's kind of filtering through all the trees in a particular way, and it's just hitting a little bit of the branches here and there, and it's kind of sparkly, and so it could be that too. It could be just some sort of phenomenon that catches my eye that then makes me either want to paint that scene or make a photograph of that and then stash it in my, my creative stash for images for later, or it will filter into an image in some kind of way down the line. So I feel like I've got this memory, I've got this on switch that stashes images or qualities or moments in my memory bank that somehow will show up, hopefully when I need it to, when I can use it, to the best effect. I will either work directly from a photograph. Every now and then, I'll make an image on my phone and I'll just know that that's the thing that I need to make. Lately, with the circumstances these days, I think I've been becoming, with being more isolated, I've become more and more internal than external. So sometimes that will mean that I will literally be sitting in my house looking out a window, and it'll be just a moment where I say, okay, now's the time I have to paint that. So that's another way, like just direct observation. I just want to sit and be in that moment and spend time with that scene. And for me, making the painting is a way to kind of ground myself in the moment, but also pay attention to what I notice, which keeps me connected with life. As far as kind of what my studio looks like now, it's definitely responding to the sort of the changes of moment to moment. I'm working in my house. I'm fortunate to have, in the place where I'm staying, it has, I guess you call it a sunroom, and it faces north. So it's long and thin with a good bank of windows. And so, I don't know, you can probably see if you look in the wall behind me, it kind of goes greenish. That's the light bouncing off of the trees and coming in through the windows. So it's this, this kind of very voluminous sort of space. I'm lucky to have it. It's hot because the air conditioning doesn't reach in here, but it's got great light. So right now I'm working very small for a few reasons. One is just the limitations of studio space. Another is that it's still this exploratory kind of phase. And so I've just got like a drafting table set up where I'm just looking out in my yard, and working on some small watercolors here. I also will move throughout the house though, and just take a little portable easel that I have and just set up, doing interiors or exterior views, not really landscapes, but window views around the house too. So, well, I agreed to participate in the residency. I was excited to be invited. I think right now, more than anything, just out of the need to connect with other people, other artists, and have these share our experiences as a way of hopefully gaining more insight into how we're all dealing with what's happening right now, how it's affecting our work. What's normal, I really kind of resent the phrase the new normal a little bit, but like what really is, what are some of the ways people are dealing with things? If your studio practice is upended or on pause or radically altered, what's going on with you and how are you dealing with that? I think that helps us all, just kind of get to know ourselves a little bit better, and also to connect. I don't think and I'm sure I'm not the only person, but I feel like this moment has really taught me so much about how much I need other people, and so I think it's a great, that's what I needed, was a sense of that connection. I think we all do. And it would be lovely to be able to be sitting in the same room, and maybe one day we will. But right now, this extra opportunity to connect at the level of studio practice, at the level of being an artist in the world dealing with these things, is just really appreciated. So my work is as much about being a teacher as it is about being an artist in some ways. And I think, so right now I'm working in watercolor, and I'm working from imagination. I started with watercolor to teach myself how to do it so I could teach other people how to do it, right? So, but then that naturally kind of evolved into this question of, well, how do I want to use this material, So, and I don't know the clear moment when there was a shift between, studying the process of watercolor for the sake of being able to teach it, to now I'm just so fascinated with the way this material behaves, because I really am. I'm like, half the time I'm painting just watching what's happening with the medium. It has a totally different kind of luminosity than oil painting does. So yeah, and so there's that light thing again, right? Gosh, yeah. And so I guess I'm exploring the medium, and then I'm finding myself looking for subject matter while exploring the medium too, if that makes sense. So this current body of work started out, with the quarantine going on, it became more and more important for me to get out of the house and in nature, which is something I've always been drawn to all my life. I always feel much more like myself when I'm out in the world than I do in a lot of other situations. So I've been walking daily, out at the park, Lincoln Parish Park here outside of Ruston, or in Ruston. And these little moments, again, it would just be like, one time I looked, there's ducks everywhere, and they're these really weird looking ducks, some of them, some people may know exactly what they are. I don't. All I know is that there's one that has it's black, and it has this beautiful blue-green sheen to it that I just want to try to paint. And so I'm looking at that duck, studying the way black becomes blue, becomes green in a gradation on that duck, so I can take that home, because I can't take the duck home, right? So I can take that home and try to paint it. But it's also dramatic moments too, so there are these ducks that have these weird mohawks. I don't know if you've been out there, but there's like a little, so I'm looking at one going, that duck has a mohawk, and all of a sudden a dragonfly flies by, and it just reaches up and boop, effortlessly swallows it. Just like effortlessly, and so that then becomes this moment that gets stuck in my head. And so then I come home and I just start drawing, and I try to figure out, what does that picture look like? And it's more a picture, I think, of the total experience of being out there than it is a literal rendering in any way at all. It's all the qualities, it's the heat, it's the moisture, it's the colors of the duck, it's the sheen on the dragonfly wings, it's everything. That is in my head that then somehow has to find its way into the drawing and then into the watercolor. I really think, and this is something that I've thought for a long time about, what parts of ourselves do we use when we make work? And I really think it's everything. It's internal and it's external. It's the sensations, the physical experiences, but it's also, so the sun, the heat, like all of that is something that is descriptive, and that is a part of how we experience the world. And I think that's a Robert Henry quote. I don't know if you know that work, The Art Spirit by Robert Henry, Henri. And he says something to the effect that we paint with all of our senses, so it's not just the color of the orange or the texture of the orange, but it's also the smell, the spray of moisture when you peel the skin off. It's all of those things that inform how we describe something. And so the more of those qualities that we can draw from, I believe, the more potent the image becomes. And I think that's a different thing than illustrating the scene, because I can list, all of the different things that I see, but then there are things that you can't really put into words. But I do believe that those things still come through in the work when you make the work. And whether or not the viewer sees all of that literally, maybe the way we think of an illustration might literally present something, I believe that they will have a fuller experience of that image, because it's all of that is getting filtered into the choices that we make with composition and color and media and all of that. Lately, I think emotion too, big time, just because of being isolated and all the things that are going on. I think that's also something that's paintable, or drawable.